Hello and welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk podcast. As always, you can find the show on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. We are trying to hit 100 subscribers, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you can get all the alerts for the videos when they come out. And you know how this works if you watch the Week 1 reaction. And I'll go over the injury report first, and I'll go over all the games and highlights that you need to know from that game and outtakes from those games. Starting off with quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson is in concussion protocol. Game time decision next week. It shouldn't be too big of a deal. Wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, Odell Beckham Jr., is out with an apparent ankle injury. I'm not sure really on the timeline of that. Running back for the Lions, David Montgomery, was carted off the field with an apparent thigh injury. Safety for the Bears, Eddie Jackson, is out with an apparent foot injury. And big news, running back for the Browns, Nick Chubb is out for the season. Just had knee surgery today. When they release specifics, I will get that out to you guys. Quarterback for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, re-aggravated his calf injury, so he may be out for the next game. He's going to be more of a game time decision. Corner for the Lions, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's out for the year with a torn pec. Safety for the Cardinals, Budda Baker was put on IR the other day with an apparent hamstring injury. Wide receiver for the Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey, is out in concussion protocol. Running back for the Giants, Saquon Barkley, did something to his ankle, and he's week to week. And a very scary injury, head-on-head collision in the end zone. Tight end for Washington Commanders, Logan Thomas, does have a concussion, and I would expect him to miss the next week or two. And finally, safety Minkah Fitzpatrick was hospitalized for a hit that he sustained on Monday night. That was the injury report, and now we will go into the games. Ravens at Bengals. Ravens win 27-24. And for the Bengals, let's not overreact here. They're still one of the best teams in the AFC. They started out last year 0-2, and they still made the AFC Championship game. The only wrinkle, the only difference, is that Joe Burrow has tweaked his calf. And that may make an impact on Game 3. It may not. They're playing the Rams. It's a winnable game. And, I mean, that has definitely impacted his play in the past two games. But still, they're definitely in a position where they can still win the AFC North. They can still go to the championship game. So, yeah, for the Bengals, you can't be very concerned about the way they have played. They've historically gotten off to bad starts to seasons, and I think that the Bengals, it's not time to push the panic button yet, but, a couple more weeks of this, and you really got to start to be concerned. But, an 0-2 start is still an 0-2 start. You still have to be concerned in the present moment, especially since those two games were divisional games against very tough opponents in the Browns and the Ravens especially. Lamar Jackson for the Ravens looked way more in sync with his offense, and he looked way more locked in, and he played really great football. He really did. And the wide receivers played really great as well. I caught the end of this game. Zay Flowers had a couple amazing catches. Nelson Aguilar had a very nice touchdown catch. But the MVP of this game, in my opinion, had to have been Lamar Jackson. He played very well. Seahawks at Lions, final in overtime, 37-31 in favor of the Seahawks. And this was a very thrilling game. Amon-Ra St. Brown went off for 100 yards on only 6 receptions. They definitely need to force feed him the ball a lot more. He's a great player. Geno Smith led the game-winning drive, and it was very efficient. High intensity in a hostile environment in the Lions. And it was just a good overall bounce-back win for the Seahawks after they lost to in my opinion, still not very great Rams team. And it was a very nice win versus an NFC championship contender team. And the MVP of this game had to have been Geno Smith, orchestrating the comeback and everything that he did to get them to that point. Next game, Bears at Buccaneers. Final score 17-27 in favor of the Buccaneers. And Justin Fields has a ton going for him. He has really great weapons and players like DJ Moore and Chase Claypool. He has running backs, legit running backs in Khalil Herbert. And he has all he needs to succeed and he does nothing with it. This is really a turning point for him. He has played almost 30 games in the NFL and he has won 5. He has won 5. And it really has to be concerning because this is his 3rd year in the NFL. He has done squat with all his talent. He can run the ball well. He's a true dual threat quarterback. He's got a great arm. I mean, as of late, all of it hasn't really paid off. His running has been inconsistent and forced, and he hasn't gotten really big chunk plays. His passing attack has been wildly inconsistent. He's overthrown guys, underthrown guys. He basically looks like a washed version of Cam Newton at this point in time, unless he turns it around. And he has to get those wins. Otherwise, he's not going to be the starting quarterback for very long. I hate to say it. You can't keep a guy that has all this much going for him, and he still isn't able to deliver. You're going to find other quarterbacks that will deliver with talent around him, and this guy is just not doing it at the moment. Moving on from him, Baker Mayfield looked really efficient, passing for 317 yards. Mike Evans went off with 171 yards, only on 6 receptions and a touchdown, and the Bucs were really in total control of this game on all 3 phases from start to finish, though everyone really played great on offense and on defense and on special teams. My MVP goes to Mike Evans for his big day today. Chiefs at Jaguars, final score 17-9, and if you think back to my Friday 5 is where I take the 5 best games going into the week, give a little bit of my take on what I think the game will be at. I'm not going to be right all the time, obviously, and I'll give like a score prediction, stuff like that. I had this game, the Chiefs winning like 35-30 or something crazy, a big shootout. That did not happen. It was a big defensive game, and Chris Jones really made an instant impact, getting multiple sacks on 3rd downs to force punts. And when he wasn't getting sacks, he was getting pressures. He was hitting the quarterback. He was freeing up. He was taking on double teams to free up other guys coming in and getting easy pressures and sacks. And it was really, I mean, the Chiefs defense is way up there. Even without him, last week on Thursday night versus the high-powered Lions offense, they only let them score 21, and still they played excellent. And this position group is definitely one of the most underappreciated. We say underappreciated in all of the NFL. And with Chris Jones, it makes them very elite. It makes them a top 6 or 7 defense this season, at least, from what we've seen through the sample size. And but beside that, if you're just looking for an offensive game, this game was pretty blah. Especially if you came in with the expectation, like I did, that it was going to be a pretty high-powered, high-offense, high-octane game. But both Ds, the Jaguars D didn't get enough credit as well. The Jaguars defense played very well against the high-powered Chiefs offense and only limited them to 17 points. This would be a very entertaining game to watch in the postseason once everyone is fully revved up and ready to go. The MVP of this game for me has to be Chris Jones, taking on that leader role and guide and basically willing this team to a win. Packers at Falcons, final score 25-24 in favor of the Falcons. And it really came down to a 25-yard field goal by Younghoe Koo with 50 seconds left that won the game for the Falcons. Going over to the Packers side, Jordan Love looked a little bit more down to earth this game. He went off in week 1, threw for all the yards, threw for a bunch of touchdowns. He still he was a little bit shaky going with 151 yards, but he did still throw 3 touchdowns, so he was still working the way they needed him to do, and he still scored 24 points on offense, which is not bad at all, especially with a pretty good defense like the Packers do. Just wasn't enough to win this game, but I expect that he will win his fair share of games in the coming weeks. Bijan Robinson went full-on running back beast mode on this game with 124 yards from scrimmage, and that helped mightily. He basically willed this Falcons team to a win, and it really helped because time of possession, keeping Jordan Love and the Packers offense off the field, and it helps set up other plays. It's helped set up the passing game. It is so easy to pass the ball when, excuse me, your running back is getting all these chunk yards. You get more and more defensive players committing to the run. It just frees up so many more passing lanes, as we well know, with play action and stuff like that. And that's what Desmond Ridder excelled at in this game. So my MVP of this game has to go to Bijan Robinson. Chargers at Titans. Final score 27-24 in favor of the Titans in overtime. And the Chargers, they have a tough schedule. That's what you get when you're a playoff team. Playoff teams usually should exceed expectations. They should be able to win tougher games. So they got to schedule them a little bit tougher. And this was a game that they probably, it's a winnable game. The Titans are definitely a tough out. The Titans can play spoiler a lot this season, in my opinion. But this is definitely a winnable game for the Chargers. And they already started 0-1. Thriller last week against the Dolphins. So going 0-2 here was it's really going to be tough sledding because you got better teams ahead. You have a lot better teams ahead. You're playing against the Chiefs. You're playing the Bengals. You're playing the Ravens, among other teams, and it's going to be really hard for the Chargers to win when you're not even winning the games that you should win, even if it is at the Titans. And it's really a game that they should have won. Kudos to the Titans, though. They played the game that they needed to play to give them the best shot of winning, which was keeping the ball out of Justin Herbert and the offense's hands. And they did that by having running backs like Nick Chubb, not Nick Chubb, excuse me, like having running backs like Derrick Henry. There it is. And he really helped with the time of possession game. They had the ball for 37 minutes out of 60 in this game, which really helped in turn, help keep the Chargers offense off the field. But my MVP got to be the kicker, Nick Folk, who kicked the game-winning field goal, kicked a couple field goals before, and he played awesome today. Commanders at Broncos, final score 35-33, and this was my game of the week. Lead changes left and right. Broncos came out hot, winning 21-23 through the second quarter, and then Sam Howell led the clutch game-winning comeback drives, throwing for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. And everyone, I hopefully saw the big Hail Mary at the end. It bounced off 8 people's hands. They score the touchdown. They're down by 2 at that point. They go for the 2-point conversion. They don't get it. And the Commanders come out on top. And the Commanders could be a very sneaky wild card pick. They have gone 2-0. And they could really sneak into a wild card here if they handle business versus the teams that they should, and keep it close, upset a couple teams that they shouldn't beat. And on Monday night, the Browns visiting the Steelers, final score 26-22 in favor of the Steelers. And this game was messy. The offenses didn't look great at all. The Browns offense sputtered at times. Deshaun Watson tried to make plays that really he shouldn't have. He was missing throws, whatnot. And then on the Steelers side, the running game could not muster up anything until they brought in the backup, and even then, they weren't getting too much there. They finished with double-digit rushing yards, and they had I saw this somewhere. They had -5 rushing yards in the fourth quarter, and I don't know how you win doing that, but they did. And on the flip side, the defenses really played well on both sides. The Browns defense just overwhelmed Kenny Pickett a lot of the time because they have guys on the corners that can play man-to-man, although George Pickens looked great, and he cooked Denzel Ward a lot of the time, especially on the 71-yard touchdown pass. And overall, I think it's going to be really messy in the AFC North, and both these teams didn't look like they wanted to win the game, but the Steelers' defense ended up scoring 14 points and sacking Deshaun Watson 7 times to win the game. So my MVP really has to go to the Steelers' defense as a whole. They played great in this game.